It's an open secret Hollywood's been swinging on Xi Jinping's Winnie the Pooh for a piping hot fucking minute, but at least until now, getting him to come right out and admit it was like asking Milli Vanilli to sing a cappella, which is why I scratched the top 5 layers of skin off my head when the Hollywood Reporter, of all outlets, called out the industry for its shy-com cuckery in a lengthy article just this past week. It's only after perusing the contents you can cognize the precise reason why. As articles go, it makes Crime and Punishment look like a dick pill pamphlet, but in brief, the aughts marked over a decade of intense acquisition of American movie studios in a process I've already apprised you all is known in communist Chinese parlance as soft power. Think what Stalin tried and ultimately failed to fucking accomplish in the 1940s version of Hollywood, only this time it actually sort of kind of fucking worked, and Congress were too big of Bolsheviks or paid off pussies to actually convene House hearings on the subject and send these assholes packing in person. Where's Roy Brewer when you fucking need him, I ask you? The process is simple. Buy into or collaborate with so many American film studios that the mere prospect of producing the slightest critique of the communist dictatorship in the Far East becomes a question of cash, not politics, and you've effectively conquered the entire entertainment propaganda apparatus of America without firing a fucking shot. When Vladimir Lenin was quoted as saying, "Of all the arts, to us," meaning the filthy fucking Reds, "the cinema is the most important," I have to believe this scenario would have given him a shuddering full-body wet dream, folks. Lenin contextualized his remarks in other writings, by the way, saying cinema is unique in its ability to shape and mold reality as we see fit.
The Communist Party was not like other parties, the Republicans or Democrats, Libertarians, what have you. This was a party founded and funded by the Soviet Union, and it changed its position simultaneously to the Soviet position. For example, the communists were out front on the anti-fascist issue in the late 30s until 1939, when Stalin signed his pact with Hitler. The early Soviet leaders, Lenin and Stalin, were fascinated with cinema because it allowed endless alteration of reality, which of course is what they were trying to do in real life, create a new Soviet man and so on. And Lenin would send these cinema trains out into the countryside. And there were some prominent Soviet filmmakers. In the United States, the Communist Party sponsored some interesting documentaries and so on, but absolutely nothing that could compete with the American commercial cinema, which was the only game in town. It dominated the screens across the entire world. So instead of starting their own commercial cinema, why not take over the one that already exists?
Is the influx of pumpkin spice socialists invading the video game space starting to come into focus for you yet? And it worked. Obama would have carved his cock off for the CCP, assuming Michelle would let him borrow it for the fucking evening, and we all know the long and storied prehistory of Beijing Biden. Even a half-decade ago, it was outright assumed long-term cooperation with the commies was more or less a matter of when than if. And some in Hollywood clearly still feel the same. But don't believe me, ask the steroidal sentient toupee known as John fucking Cena.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在《速度与激情》中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误。所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情有人给我很多资讯 information，所以很多采访，很多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国跟中国人。我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解，我很爱，很尊重中国跟中国人，不好意思，再见。
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Even with my meager knowledge of the language, this dude's Mandarin sucks ass through a bamboo shoot. Who's your Chinese instructor, Jerry Lewis? I'd call John Cena a sellout, but anyone who's seen WWE's attendance figures since 2006 knows that's a bold-faced fucking lie. There's something transcendently poetic about the dude who played the Marine prostrating himself for a tyrannical regime to keep his stillborn fucking film career kicking. At roughly the same time, multiple military branches are drumming colonels out of the Corps for criticizing communism. Never mind that he has exactly as much military experience as my fucking dog, and Cicero probably licked fewer balls to get there, by the way. Either way, this single episode brought blinding illumination on the monetary bind betwixt the silver screen and the savage Orient. And then came the coof. I don't know how up on current events you all are, but turns out after a year plus, Biden bloviating about how the pinko pox should be one of the only viruses in human history we don't name after its point of fucking origin, and how mine and others' allegation that it likely escaped from the Wuhan biolab, or the looniest conspiracy theories this side of election irregularities? Yeah, turns out just this past week, the media quietly admitted that every solitary patient zero to first come down with a commie cough was an employee at said biolab, meaning either these assholes were wet market aficionados par excellence, or shit escaped from a lab like Weapon X on bath salts. And that's not even... You hear that? Oh, fuck you, I was right, fuck you, I was right, fuck you, I was right. The title of the article is something to the effect of, "Is the romance between Hollywood and China over?" But honestly, the Tinseltown Tin Pot triad was destined for divorce long before the Kung Flu. Hell, before Trump was even a politician, Hollywood was already in the earliest stages of wondering why they were being kept minority partners in joint ventures with Chi-Com corporations that were increasingly failing to produce a fucking profit for them. Uncle Joe Biden tried to ameliorate that issue as vice president by negotiating higher rates of return for Western partners in joint Chinese movie releases in exchange for a higher cap on the number of Western movie releases per year. And for half a Chinese dick length, it appeared that might actually work. If you're wondering why we went from Disney to Mickey Mouse in under a 5-year fucking period, a 5-year plan, if you will, there's your answer on a tin pot platter. Sadly, someone neglected to translate the negotiations to collectivist cunt, and China virtually never honored the terms of the aforementioned arrangement, almost as if they feared no reprisal from Biden because they had some sort of incriminating information on his son or something. Who knows, maybe China and Hunter Biden just got off on the wrong foot. Then there was the fact that after decades of opening its economy, allowing additional autonomy to colonies such as Hong Kong and Taiwan, in an effort to raise its non-existent living standards, China remembered they're a communist dictatorship, and the looser their economic and social reins, the more political alternatives will present themselves, and in a socialist regime, political alternatives are a bit like meals. Nobody gets one. While the prevailing media narrative for over a decade was that China was the land of milk and soy for the movie industry, in truth, Hollywood were getting paid in pocket lint and pubes. Only the most sky-smashing successes yielded anything resembling a profit for the West, and even those sums were about as full-figured as Elliot Page after a decathlon. China never gave a front-flippin' fuck about profit. Watch my Hollywood was always red video and then understand that what we're watching here is Hollywood Party 2.0. Only China have come closer to pulling it off than Russia ever were in their most vivid vodka-induced hallucinations. And now they're fucking it all up by being communist, to the extent that even the Hollywood fucking Reporter feel comfortable calling them out for it. So what's next for a Hollywood already hampered by online streaming, piracy, and the simple fact that cinema has sucked 700 dicks in rapid succession since the late 90s? I mean, the superhero trend is in its final extremity, folks, and it ain't like billion-dollar paydays grow on trees. Just ask Bill Gates' divorce lawyer. While the Vegas odds-on favorite is undoubtedly for them to ride the recent remake phenomenon, I think we all know that's got the staying power of those shitty YouTube channels where random black dudes pretended to like heavy metal for a fucking living. Who knows? Maybe they'll make musicals great again. Can you imagine a 3D VR reboot of Glee? You could literally feel the characters pulling you out of the closet. I mean, I hear that Michael Brown biography hit the skids. Apparently they had to shoot it, reload, and then shoot it again. I'm Razorfist. God fucking speed.
During this time, I'm thinking, this guy is going to be killed any moment now. And if he is, I just can't miss this. This is something that he's giving his life for. I realized that the Public Security Bureau had been watching us from the other rooftop by binoculars. So I went in and took the film out of the camera and took off the top of the toilet and put it in the holding tank, put the toilet top back on. And shortly after that, probably 10, 15 minutes afterwards, the Public Security Bureau broke through the door.
And his name is John C. He's gonna get in the ring!